And welcome back, everybody. It's the Catholic Convert Show. It is finally the midpoint of the week, and we're going to see what's going on in the angry side of the Twitter sphere. No, I'm just kidding. I had zero desire to do any of that. Ed, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. It's what day of the week is it? It's Wednesday, I think you said.
Yeah, it's the middle of the week, finally.
Middle of the week. It's hot and disgusting out there, which is fine by me. I'll probably take some time the next day or two and see what's happening on the beach. It's actually
Nice.
You know what? That's the one thing around here is that these early season kind of experiences we have with heat, where if you're a couple miles away from the coast, it's in the mid 90s, but right along the water, it's still like barely 80 degrees. So it's very refreshing just to kind of hop out of your car onto the beach. It's 78, 79 degrees and you're feeling good. So that'll be nice. So I'll have to do that. But other than that, yeah, life is good. Life is always good.
Yeah. No, we've got my my wedding convalidation ceremony this weekend. It's
still waiting for my invitation, by the way. Yeah, still waiting for my invitation.
It's in the mail.
Is it in the mail? All right.
All right. Yeah. But of course, my wife went and did the whole thing. She's like, I got new shoes, got a new dress. We got matching boutonnieres for me and our sons. And what's funny, and of course, it plays right into Murphy's Law, right? If anything can go wrong, it will. She's got her dress on and she's like, oh, I love it. I'm checking it out. And she turns around and right here where the sleeve meets, it's torn.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So later today, after I pick my son up from work, gotta go shopping, get her a different dress. No idea how it happened. It looks like the threads just failed, like it was poorly sewn or something. And my wife's a wizard with a sewing machine, but the material is so thin. She has to get like this super tiny polyester thread. She's like, screw it, I'll just get a new dress. So we got to go do that. But I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, all right, get my work done, get a little bit further in this book that I'm writing, do the show, and then finally go out there and get her a new dress, vacuum seal it till Saturday so nothing happens to it. And then Sunday, I'm getting baptized and confirmed in my first communion on Saturday as well. But Sunday will be the first Sunday Mass that I go to church fully Catholic. And it's one of the most awesome feelings. Like, I've been counting down the days, like checking days off a calendar, like a kid waiting for Christmas, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it. And this is you, this is me, this is 99% of the Catholics out there. But I do spend a lot of time just not feeling Catholic enough. And I don't mean that because I'm not baptized and confirmed yet until this weekend. I'm not Catholic enough. Like, I'm not devoted enough, And so I've had this brown scapular. It's got these beautiful images of Our Lady and Jesus with, the Sacred Heart of Christ. And I've had it hanging on the crucifix that's right beside my front door, because as soon as you open my front door, turn to the left, I've got this very good sized crucifix there, and it's got prayer cards kind of like pinned behind, not pinned, but the arms of the crucifix are holding it between the crucifix and the wall, and I've got like 5 rosaries hanging on it in case the kids ever just need a rosary. They've all got their own, but if there's, hey, I don't know where mine's at, grab one off the crucifix. and this has been hanging up there with it. And I grabbed it today because yesterday I was talking about how uh, the the main reason that I haven't worn the brown scapular is I don't feel like, or I'm sorry, I'm not confident in my ability to maintain fidelity to that devotion. And I don't do anything halfway. Everybody who knows me knows that. I don't want to do anything halfway. And, the more I thought about it, like I think I'm gonna. And I know I still have to go to my priest and I have to ask him to uh pretty much enroll me into the confraternity of the brown scapular. It's a simple ceremony that can be performed by any priest. Um, but in order to receive the promises of the brown scapular, it does come with some conditions. And for people who don't know what or just maybe think they know but don't know fully about the brown scapular. So in the year 1251, in the town of Aylesford in England, Our Lady appeared to Saint Simon Stock, who was a Carmelite, and she handed him a brown woolen scapular and said, "This shall be a privilege for you and all Carmelites, that anyone dying in this habit shall not suffer eternal fire." And over time, the church extended this magnificent privilege to all of the laity who were willing to be invested in the brown scapular of the Carmelites and those who perpetually wear it. It's a true devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary, and it consists of three things: it's veneration, confidence, and love. And by wearing the brown scapular, we can tell her every moment of the day that we venerate her, love her, and trust in her protection. It's kind of like a silent prayer. As Christ taught us to say the Our Father, our Blessed Mother taught us the value of the scapular. And when we use it as a prayer, Our Lady draws us to the sacred heart of her divine Son. And so the enrollment, like I said, into the brown scapular fraternity, and by the way, it has to be 100% wool without any kind of plastic casing. It can't be pinned or affixed to your clothing. It's worn over the head, under one's clothes, with one square on the chest, another on the back. The pictures themselves are beautiful, but they're not necessary. The only thing is that it has to be, again, 100% wool, and it has to be predominantly the brown scapular. It's it's the same color, and the reason why the the Order of the Carmelites all wear a brown habit, it's the same color, right? Um, but the Blessed Virgin of Mount Carmel has promised to save all those who wear the scapular from the fires of hell, and she will also shorten their stay in purgatory by praying to her Son for them if they should pass from this world still owing some debt of penance, like if you die outside of a state of grace. And this promise, and Ed, you got a lot of stuff in your basement. It would be cool if you had this, but in the bull of Pope John the 22nd, the Blessed Virgin appeared to him and, speaking to all of those who wear the brown scapular, said, "I, the Mother of Grace, shall descend on the Saturday of their death, and whomever I shall find in purgatory, I shall free, so that I may lead them to the holy mountain of everlasting life." So, Ed, if you have a bowl of Pope John the 22nd, that would be awesome. Okay. Gonna get to looking. I know you got a lot of stuff down there.
I'll
But
have to dig. It might be there. You
yeah,
never know.
just dig. But in order to receive the promises of the brown scapular, there's three conditions that must be met. One is to wear it continuously, right? You don't take it off. It's permissible to take it off for bathing, but it's not something that you take off because you don't want it to get dirty or it's going to be in the way or it's going to ruin my photo. Nothing like that. You have to wear it continuously. The second one is you have to observe chastity according to one state in life, whether you're single or married. Now, people get confused. Well, does that mean you're going to stop, being intimate with your wife? It does not, because the Catholic Church sees chastity within marriage as simply what we all know what marriage should be. It is complete and utter devotion to your spouse, refraining and abstaining from any type of sexual activity with anyone, including yourself, but your spouse, right? It is abstaining from pornography. It is abstaining from having an affair. It's abstaining for loving yourself. All right. We'll say it that way. That's chastity in marriage. Obviously, chastity as a single person is very self-explanatory. I mean, and I say that because people confuse celibacy and chastity. And so there's a very distinct difference. The third condition is to recite daily the little office of the Blessed Virgin, or observe the fast of the church together with abstaining from meat on Wednesdays and Saturdays, or with permission of a priest, say 5 decades of Our Lady's Most Holy Rosary, or with permission of a priest, substitute some other good work. Now, Pope Benedict the 15th, the very celebrated World War I pontiff, granted 500 days indulgence for devoutly kissing your scapular. Now, these conditions, they're not outrageous. They're not, like Mission Impossible level things that would be hard to accomplish. Like if there was a devotion where one of the conditions was, well, you have to walk 500 miles a day. You know what? I'm pretty sure I'm going to fall short. I do a lot of hiking, but not that much. But again, the reason I haven't is because I'm afraid of falling short, if that makes sense, because I already feel like I fall short enough. And then someone pointed out, yeah, but someone pointed out to me yesterday, though, the grace comes with the devotion, not before the devotion.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's funny how that works, but yeah, it makes sense. So here, live on the show, I'm donning for the first time ever the brown scapular.
What's going on?
Although I still have to talk to my priest to perform the ceremony to enroll me in the confraternity, I'm not taking it off.
And I was here to see this.
You were here to see this, and so was all 3.2 people that will ever watch this.
I heard we're up to 4.7. I'm just, that's a rumor.
4.7, yes.
4.7.
Yes.
Well, this is very exciting. Though, Jeff, I wanted to say something because you mentioned something that you, me, and so many other people struggle with. When you're talking about you hesitated to start because you were afraid of falling short. And how many times people avoid starting certain novenas, certain daily prayers, joining certain fraternities, doing all these things because they're afraid they're going to fall short. They're not going to meet the requirements. And I can do. And to me, man, that's the devil creeping in there and saying, don't bother trying because you're going to fail. And so you don't try at all. Whereas our Lord would say, try. You might fall, but I'm going to help you back up. You know what I mean? But listen, I've been right there. I've done that exact same thing. I have avoided starting certain devotions and things like that, because I was afraid at some point I'm going to drop the ball, I'm going to fail. And I'm thinking, well, wouldn't it be better if I made the attempt? That's what Christ is looking for. He wants to see you make the attempt. He knows that there's a chance you might fall, you know, but again, he's going to be there to help you back up. And so I'm excited that we were here to see you do that. And I know you're going to do fine, man. You're going to see it through.
Appreciate that. I was talking to a friend of mine. He was like, it does feel kind of strict. He goes, but I wore it for an entire year, and I'm glad that I did.
Yeah.
Like, okie dokie. Now, obviously, I'm still going to have the scapular blessed by my priest when he enrolls me into the confraternity of the brown scapular. But yeah, I was afraid to wear it because I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to maintain perfect fidelity. And then I'm over here going, what have I been saying 1,000 times on this show? No one is going to be able to maintain perfect fidelity.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And that's the thing. It's true, man. There's so many things. I mean, I hesitated beginning doing the office of the hours every day because, okay, what if I get a week and a half into it and I'm not going to do it anymore, and I stopped doing it? And
what if you sleep late?
Yeah, what if you sleep? All these kind of things pop into your head, and same thing with daily rosary and things like that. But the other thing I find is that the deeper you get into these things, the less likely you are to fall. You know what I mean? Like they wind up being a part of your life, and they wind up being a part of your life that you almost feel like you can't live without. So it stops becoming this struggle. It stops becoming this, oh my gosh, I got to do that again today, and it starts becoming, oh, I can't wait till I do that again. I can't wait to pick up the rosary. I can't, you know what I mean? And so hopefully people aren't discouraged, but they are encouraged to start something like that, because you will be amazed at how it very quickly becomes a part of your life.
Oh, yeah. And it's funny because it's kind of the same way that I came to the Catholic Church. I was I've told the story 1,000 times, so I won't go back into it. Writing a book with a client, it ended up being like an 18-month project, which was an 18-month dive into scripture and talking with friends who were Catholic and my wife. But and people always go, Jeff, how are you so versed that you are in apologetics already? I'm like, one, I'm not. Okay, I'm not. Let's put that out there. I discover something new every single day. I discover something new every single hour. I learn more every single hour. But my first day going to mass, I knew absolutely nothing. My third mass, I knew absolutely nothing. My 10th mass, I knew absolutely nothing. Okay. But I went every single week because when I made the decision that Catholicism has to be true, I did it without what a lot of people do. Like the parochial vicar at my church, he's 75 years old. He became a priest in the late no, he decided in the late 70s that he was going to become a priest, right? But then it was the 70s. He went and did a lot of 70s things. And he read his way because he grew up in a very posh, rich Anglican community, went to an Anglican boarding school in New England, right? He's from the Princeton area there in Jersey. And he read his way into the Catholic Church later. I didn't do that. I didn't read my way into the Catholic Church. I didn't study the writings of the church fathers and this and that and the other, that I know a lot of people who are in the process of converting or have converted took that route and became
Mm,
Catholic, realized that the Catholic Church is the one true church founded by Christ himself. I didn't go that route. I didn't learn any of the theology and church history until after the decision to become Catholic was already made.
mm,
I It was like, I believe now, and I'm going to learn why as I go, is the decision that I went. Other people, and I'm not saying there's a right way or a wrong way to do this. Other
mm,
people that I know, and this seems to be the majority of the way it's done, I'm going to learn first and then decide if I believe it. And it was the
mhm.
opposite for me. I jumped in with both feet and said, I believe. And then I was reading my Bible every single night. I'm praying the rosary every single day, going to mass every single Sunday. I understand zero of what's going on. I've still got these like cheat cards in my desk over here for like the rosary. Sitting here. I've still got them there. I don't use them anymore, but I used them constantly when I was first developing the habit of praying the rosary. And like I said, I just decided this is true. I have no other choice but to believe it because it's true. And I'm going to learn why it's true as I go. So I
Yeah.
became a believer before I learned why I even believe it. And I
Yeah.
see other people, they go through and they learn why they should believe it, and then they believe it. And again, there's no right or wrong way to go about it. But I just noticed that my journey into it and my conversion was very different than what I see a lot of in other converts.
Yeah. But there's a lot. I think there's a lot to what you're saying there. And I believe it goes back. Listen, I think it goes back to the womb. Honestly, I think that before you are even born, I think that God writes on your heart, and He writes this this knowledge of Him and this desire for God, this desire to know Him and to love Him and to serve Him. And in a sense, because of that, you come out of the womb seeking God, whether you realize it at that
Mhm.
point or not. And as you get older, it becomes more and more obvious to you. And because of that, you're going to be seeking the truth. You're going to be seeking what is the Catholic Church and what is the Catholic faith. You may not know it when you're younger. You may not be able to put a name on it, but you're seeking something. God puts that on your heart, that desire to be a part of his community, of his church. And I think that because that's what amazing. We talked to Drago a couple weeks ago. We talked to Mike Pentile last week. And what did I say? And then I talk to you every day. And I'm talking to these guys that all three of you have become Catholic within the last 8 minutes. And yet you all have a very, very good grasp of Catholicism, a very deep understanding of it, whether you're going to give yourself credit for that or not. From a person who's been a cradle Catholic, I can tell you the three of you guys have an unbelievable grasp of Catholicism based on the fact that you've only been Catholic for seconds, really. And I think that it's part of that is because, well, God's led you there. If God's involved, things can happen at a pretty breakneck speed. You know what I'm saying? I think that you're it's almost like he does this major download of information into your brains, where you're like capable of learning and understanding something that would have on your own taken years. I mean, and I know what you're saying, because I mean I've been at this. Elijah and I were in the same preschool together, and yet I'm still learning about my faith, on a daily basis. But it's true, Jeff. But but that's what I'm saying is that I just like you're saying, you don't know everything, and you never will, and that's just the truth. The
Don't
Catholic
tell
faith
my
is so
wife.
deep, so exactly. But I know that until as long as I'm pursuing it, I will be learning more about my faith up until I draw my last breath. So I'm not saying that I know everything. I'm not saying that you do, but it does. I shouldn't say it surprises me, because it doesn't surprise me that guys in your position wind up having such a quick grasp of the faith, because you've got that desire. Desire can really bring things home to you very quickly. If you've got, it's like if you're Michael Jordan, you desire to win an NBA championship, and he's going to. So that desire is what brought him to that point. He could have all the talent in the world, but if he had no desire, it wasn't going to get him anywhere. It's the same thing with your faith, which of course is much more important than winning an NBA championship. But guys like you have that desire. And now a lot of guys like who are in my position and they're not, and they're cradle Catholic, some of them I don't see that same fire. And so I try to rekindle that in them, because I know it's there. I know it might have been, the pilot light is still there. It might have, the flame might not be so strong because they've been a cradle Catholic and they've kind of lost their way along the way. But I try to get that flame going again, because once you kick that flame up, you'll be amazed at how it changes your life and how it just redirects your life. And so I almost feel like I have the same kind of fire that you guys do. I don't know why. Maybe I've prayed about it. I don't know what, but I think I've been very blessed that way, that I have that same fire that like a convert would have. And I hope that I never lose that. But again, just like any other flame, it needs to be fed. You guys are doing the research, you're doing the study, you're learning about the faith. And I try to do that, because there's a lot of Catholics that say, "Oh, I know, I went to Catholic school, I know everything there is to know," and that's such a load.
People
I
who
went
went
to
to
Catholic school
Catholic
for
school
12
know the
years,
least about
right?
Catholicism.
They know oh my gosh, I can't tell you a single thing I learned in 12 years of Catholic school. It's crazy, but
They learn
I'm
how
glad.
to
I'm glad
duck
I went.
flying erasers.
Exactly. You, you you learn how to spot a
My
nun at
sister
100
Eugenia
yards.
had an arm like Nolan Ryan.
We I had in third grade. I had Sister Ligoria. We called her Sergeant Ligoria. Man, I'll tell you, she was quite the drill sergeant. But but that's the thing. So some guys say, "Oh, I've been through all that. I don't need to know anything more. I know what it is. I know that you go to church on Sunday. I know even if they don't go, I know you go at Christmas and Easter, and blah blah blah. And then that's it. They're done. But that's why you've got to that reach down aside, throw a few logs on that fire that's in there somewhere, and get it going again. Because I study this stuff constantly, and there are so many areas of Catholicism that I'm weak on. Even though I got a bookshelf behind me with 300 books on Catholicism. I've probably read each one of them once, and then I start at the beginning. I read them again, because I always pick up something new. Something. It's kind of like when I pick up the Bible in the morning. I can read the same verse in Matthew 29 times and learn 30 different things, because that's the way Catholicism is so rich and so deep that
Like
every
Dio
time you go
Davina
back,
over here.
right? Exactly. So it's constant, but you got to feed that fire, and that's why I love about converts. You guys are always feeding that fire like no one I've ever seen.
I'll tell you something that's kind of funny is I've got a tattoo over here on my arm. It's a World War II pinup girl, but one of my dog tags across her topless section. It's very Sailor
Oh boy.
Jerry kind of style, right? But the dog tag is covering up anything that would be considered nudity. And it's got my kids' names on it. It's got my name on it there. At the bottom, where the dog tag would have your religious affiliation,
Mm,
I actually have the word Catholic.
wow.
Now, I got this tattoo in 2007, 2008,
You were far from at the time, right?
and I was far from Catholic, but I was considering, because we were living in New Mexico, and that's where my wife's church was that she went to and was
Mm,
baptized in and all that other. And we were considering starting to go. And I was like, yeah, why not? And I just threw the word on there. Weird coincidence how it came full circle almost 20 years later. But
God knows
yeah,
what
it
he's
was
doing.
2007, 2008. Yeah, God knows what he's doing. But, I was reading Letters to a Young Catholic, and I've actually got the book here. I use it to keep my microphone a little higher. This one here.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's by George Weigel. And what's awesome is in the first part of the book, he's talking about his time growing up in Baltimore in the 50s and 60s, and how it's Baltimore in the 50s. It is the most Catholic place on earth. It's more Catholic than Boston, right? It
Multiple
is the
catechism.
most Catholic place on earth that is not the Vatican. Okay. That's it. And he was talking about the very distinct Catholic culture that I would kind of like to see a resurgence of. Kids like Baltimore is now and always has been a city of neighborhoods, right? People ask in Baltimore, "Hey, where are you from?" And they name a specific neighborhood. It's just like New York. When you're in New York, you go, "Hey, where are you from?" People don't say, "I'm from New York." They go, "I'm from Queens. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm from the Bronx. I'm from Staten Island." You know, but it was different back then in Baltimore in that time. You had the Catholics would ask someone else, "Hey, where are you from?" And they named their parish. "Oh, I'm from St. Michael's. I'm from St. Anthony's. I'm from, like me, I'm from Prince of Peace." And that's where they said they were from because it was an intrinsic part of their identity. And I wish we could kind of get back to that. And I know we poke at how, you're involved in various parishes. There's something that I find very weird. People, I see it on the timeline a lot too. People go, "Well, what church do you attend?" "Well, it depends. Sometimes I drive 10 minutes to this church. Sometimes I drive 5 minutes to this church. Sometimes I drive 30 minutes to this church." I will not go to mass at another church unless I move geographical locations and it's like more than an hour drive. And even then, I might still make the trip, right? Because where are you from? "Oh, I'm from St. Michael's. I'm from Prince of Peace. I am from St. Elizabeth Seton's." Okay. You need a home parish. You need a home parish. It can't be, "Oh, I just go wherever's convenient." Now I get it. If you go to mass, at different churches because you're traveling for work all the time, that's different. But if you're at home all the time and there's a parish that you enjoy going to, why not become an actual attending member, participating member of that parish? Like, once a month, I get a big old huge envelope filled with a bunch of tiny envelopes mailed to my house, and it's got my name and my wife's name on this thing. We are active participating parishioners at Prince of Peace. That's my spiritual home. And I feel like the more people that would do that, the more we could recreate an actual Catholic culture that used to be the default standard in just 60, 70 years ago. And everybody decries Vatican II this, Vatican II that. It doesn't mean you need to act like a nomad. You're traveling from Eucharist to Eucharist, right? You're just going where the food is. Why not have a spiritual home? What is stopping you from attending the exact same parish, putting roots in at a parish? Now, Ed, again, I know your situation's different because you're involved in various ministries.
Yeah. Yeah, because I do.
But
I
there's
mean, I
people
do. I
who
mean,
just
yeah,
but there's people who are just parish hopping because
yeah.
I didn't feel like driving as far today. It's so weird to me. And again, I came from a Protestant background where this is your church. You know, this was the
Yeah.
Baptist church. This is the Wesleyan, the Methodist, the Lutherans, whatever. That was your church. That's the church you
Yeah.
go to. I don't understand how, because it's not unique to Protestants. It was the exact same way
Mhm.
in American Catholic society for decades. But now all of a sudden, we have this very fleeting feeling of impermanence where, oh, I didn't feel like driving 10 extra minutes. So I just went to this parish. Sometimes I like to go to that one because that priest does give a good homily. And I'm not talking about the people who, because I have to make these disclaimers because people will go, well, what about the? Okay, I'm also not talking about the people that have to bounce parish to parish because there's not enough priests in the area, and so he tries to serve
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that either. If you have a parish that's near you that you attend that has mass every Sunday, why would you parish hop without setting down real permanency, permanent roots as your spiritual home? Now I get, okay, maybe there was a controversy or you don't like to, or the priest died and the next one that came in sucks. Okay, I get it. Then pick a new home. When
Yeah.
you move to a new house, you stay in that house. You don't just move out of your house and start living hotel to hotel to hotel to hotel.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest piece that I think is missing from why it's so hard for us to reestablish a Catholic identity and a Catholic culture. There's so many people not choosing a home parish. Almost every Catholic that I see online, well, I go to this one on Mondays, and I go or on the first Sunday of the month, and I go to this one on the second Sunday of the month, and I go, why? Pick a spiritual home and be there. Help it grow. That's why parishes close because they don't have any members.
Yeah.
Be a member. Help a parish grow. It doesn't make sense to me, man.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about because you're talking about Baltimore. Well, I grew up living in the sticks, but not too far away from the city of Trenton, New Jersey, which is the capital. And so our church was in Trenton, and you know, I knew all the churches in Trenton because Trenton was much like Baltimore, where you had neighborhoods, and each neighborhood had its church. And Trenton is kind of unique. It's somewhere between 60 and 80% of the population at the time when I was growing up was Italian. And there was a section of Trenton called Chambersburg. We used to call it just the Burg. And everyone in Chambersburg was Italian. There's so many great Italian restaurants, Italian bakeries, and all these different Italian churches. And I think what you had then was, there was Immaculate Conception, St. James, Sacred Heart, uh, I mean St. Mary's, um, Our Lady of Divine Shepherd, St. Hedwig's, and I mean I could go on and on, and you people, the parish you went to was the one that was in walking distance. Like all the kids that I knew who lived in the city, they walked to church every Sunday, and I think there's something to that because you it did become your home, and you saw the same people every Sunday walking from their homes. Maybe you walked alongside of them, and it was something you did together as a community. It's kind of like where I was growing up in Yardville. We were Byzantine Catholic, and the only Byzantine Catholic church was in Trenton, so we had to drive there. But there was I grew up in a section called the Heights, Yardville Heights, and on top of the hill, that's where I got the name of the Heights, was a Lutheran church. And so many of my neighbors on Sunday, when we're getting into the car to go to church, I'd see them just all dressed up and walking past my house to go up to that Lutheran church because that was their church, their neighborhood church. And I used to think that's so cool. I wish we could walk to church, not realizing that Lutheran church was much
Yeah, I
different than
mean,
the Catholic church. But you know what I'm
and
saying?
he talks about in his book. He talks about in his
Yeah.
book they even had parish rivalries because obviously
Oh,
there was
yeah.
parochial schools at all of these different parishes. So it was no different than this high school versus that high school. It's
Yeah.
like the community would
Well,
have, hey, we're going to do Catholic. It's funny because I was talking about inside Catholic baseball today. You know, when you get into the nitty gritty of the legalistic language or whatever, or of the theology. But if they were doing Catholic baseball, actual baseball, it would be St. Michael's versus St. Anthony's, and they would rival with each other. And they would even, the boys would fight with each other. But then if a prodigy came along and said something weird about the Catholics, now you had two teams getting ready to beat you.
yeah.
It's kind of like you mess with one bean, you get the whole burrito, bro. And there was such this interconnectedness sense of community that he describes in there. And I feel like
No,
so
no.
many people, a lot of problems with these parishes disappearing from lack of attendance is because there's no sense of community there when people are just hopping
Yeah.
through, like, traveling from way station to way station.
Yeah. No, there was. I mean, and it was, even though, like, as a kid, it was more of a sports kind of thing because we had the CYO, the Catholic Youth Organization, and all the different churches had their basketball team there. And man, you knew all the kids from all the other churches, and you wanted to beat them so bad. I went to St. Mary of the Assumption. St. Mary of the Assumption is the best church. It's the best parish. It's the best, and you proved it on the court. You know what I'm saying? But
And you had that
then,
same level of thing like you do an NFL team now.
yeah, exactly. Absolutely. But then what happened was, but then, then the people my age grew up and they didn't want to live in the city. They moved out to the suburbs and there were fewer churches. They were farther away. They didn't feel like getting in a car and driving 30, 40 minutes or even even 20 minutes to get to the church of their youth. And so they're like, okay, well, what church is close? And then they went to that church. And I don't know if they didn't feel comfortable there. They didn't feel like they were home there. I don't know. And then they just stopped going, which is just ridiculous to me. But, like, so the church that I went to in Trenton, the Byzantine Catholic Church, I still go there. It's so much different. I mean, it looks exactly the same. But when I was a kid and when I was an altar server and things like that, I mean, every Mass, every Sunday, the place was jam packed. Now I'm there with my two sisters, their husbands, their kids, and a handful of other people, and that's it, because people moved away from the city, never came back, not even for their church. I don't get it. But it's part of a bigger picture, isn't it, Jeff? I mean, ask anybody how important, to give you a list of the things that are important in their life, and I'm afraid that faith, if it even makes the list, is going to be pretty far down there. Their church, if it makes the list, is going to be pretty far down there. Whereas when I was a kid, if you asked my parents what was most important, faith was going to be number one. Raising their kids in the Catholic Church was going to be number one or number two, and that's how it was. But you don't see that today. You don't. We've got to get back to it, like you're saying. We do have to get back to it.
Yeah. And, it's funny you say that because just a year or so ago, I was looking at moving. I was like, I'd rather move and it was a nice house we were looking at getting to. It was in West Virginia, had 2 ponds on the property, completely fenced in. I think it was like 25 acres of land around it. But then I found my home parish.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I can't leave now. I'm staying here for the rest of my life unless some life-changing event happens, and if I do have to move, then I'll probably move closer to my parish or to one of the surrounding areas where my parish is still in, an hour or less driving distance.
Yeah.
I can't go anywhere now. I can't move that far away because my spiritual home is here. I'm devoted to my parish, you know. And I Father Longernecker, he invited me to come and check him out over at Our Lady of the Rosary when
Mm.
he and I went out for drinks a couple of weeks ago. And I'm like, yeah, man, maybe. And I don't mean any disrespect to him. I know it's a
No.
beautiful church, and I know he's an amazing priest,
Yeah.
but I'll probably never go
No.
simply because I love my parish.
No,
I
it's
will
true,
feel
Jeff.
like I missed something from my own parish if I went to another one.
Yeah. And Jeff, you mentioned because of where you live and everything, your church is what do you say, 30, 40 minutes away, something like that.
About
And
40 to 45 minutes.
exactly. So that's a bit of a like when you live in an area like where I live, honestly, there's
But
actually.
I live in an area where there's at least 5 more Catholic churches that are in much closer driving
Oh, are they
distance.
closer? Oh,
The
okay. Because I'm
the
gonna say,
Yeah, the one that I had no, the one that I attend now
yeah,
is the first one I went to, and
okay,
I had it in my mind that
yeah,
if it doesn't work out here, I'll try another church. I'll
yeah,
try another Catholic church. But this one had what looked to be like the most reverent service
yeah,
and images on their website, and it looked to be the most traditionally grounded parish.
yeah.
Now, is it the only one that is? No, the other ones are probably
Sure.
just as reverent. Just like I know Father Lagernecker. I've seen the inside of OLR. I've seen
Yeah,
pictures. He showed me some pictures on his phone when we were having drinks, but I just didn't go to that one that day. I was like,
yeah,
oh, I kind of know where that one is because it's near a store that my wife and I go to. So we went to that one.
yeah,
And it was when I went to that one, the hooks were in and I haven't left and I'm never leaving by choice.
yeah. No, but I get what you're saying, and I think my point being is that like if I walk out my front door here, I have to walk 20 yards up and look to my right. I can see a Catholic church, and there are, I would say, within 15 minutes of me, I can get to probably 20 different Catholic churches. And I've gone and spoken at a number of churches, and I've been to some gorgeous churches. I've been to some churches where the people are lovely and wonderful, but it's not my church. So I get what you're saying about having a home and feeling like you're at home. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
when you find a parish that you're, and I don't know why people don't have that anymore. They don't have that sense anymore of this is my home. I think if we got back to that, we probably would have, well, we'd have a lot more faithful Catholics. We'd also have a lot fewer problems in the world. Your church should be your home.
That's the way I look at my church.
Yeah.
I walk in, I don't feel like a stranger. I look around me, you know, before the main procession for the beginning of mass starts, before the bells ring, and I see people that my kids know their kids. My kids play with their kids.
Mm.
You know, these people are my absolute closest friends. We go hiking and barbecuing and all these other things together. And there's such an amazing sense of community at my parish that every single parish could have if people just decided to pick a home.
Mm.
Pick a home, you know?
Yeah.
You don't have to live on the road, which that's essentially what it translates to. To me, it's very similar to when I was a general contractor in New Mexico, Texas, and Arizona, and I lived in different hotels 3 weeks at a time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was my life for a while, and it sucked. But when I walk into my parish, the stone floor beneath my feet, I'm at home. I'm on home turf.
Yeah.
I am just as comfortable and belong there,
Yeah.
just like I do here in this chair in my desk.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I feel bad for Catholics that don't have that, but they can have it. Oh, well,
Yeah.
sometimes I want to go to this mass. Well, sometimes I want to go to that mass. I understand you've got your preferences, and again, you've got these guys that are like the TLM devotists. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Then make that TLM parish your home and don't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Not, well, I went over here because it was more convenient. That's not what it's there for. You're supposed to be rooted somewhere. That's how parishes flourish, is when they become a community. But you never get that if you're just, I went to whichever one was closest to me that day, or whichever one I didn't, go to last week. You're missing the whole purpose of the community part of being a piece of a Catholic family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm with
it's
you.
weird to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish there was one. I wish my church was down the road, or if I wish my house was down the road from my church. And believe me, as soon as there's one house, just one, that is in the price range and closer to my church,
You're
I'm
there.
not even going to try to negotiate on the price. I'm just gonna be like, yes, I want it. Give it to me now. Well, we overpriced it by $400,000. I'll
That's
pay a
okay.
75-year mortgage. Let's go.
I hear you. I'm with you.
But I mean, that's just how I see it. Like, we need that consistency,
Yeah.
if we ever want to see parishes stop closing.
Yeah.
Be an active parishioner. Get listed as a member in the membership book of your parish, and then be an active parishioner.
Absolutely. Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll get back to that. I don't know. It's
I sure hope
we
so, because I've
yeah,
got it and it's amazing. Everyone should have it.
true. And no, it really is. It's this. It's a part of being a family. But a family like no other you've been a part of before. A family that is built on love and built on Christ, and it is an amazing feeling. I will say that. Um,
Exactly.
yeah.
Well, we went 53 whole minutes on this. So, what you got from your
Important
basement
stuff.
today? Just to wrap
Well,
us up.
I went down there and I pulled out, uh, just to wrap this up, is that I went out there and I brought up one of my rescued icons. I don't know if hopefully you're getting a good look at this one. It's obviously it's
Oh,
of
yeah.
Christ. Again, it was salvaged from a church in the former Soviet Union. It's a very popular image of
Oh,
Christ,
cool.
especially in the Russian churches. Um, it's yeah. You notice the robes are red and blue. The red represents Christ's humanity and also the blood of his passion. The blue represents the mystery of Christ's divinity, and you notice that Christ is holding that orb. Oops, sorry, the orb that he holds there, and that of course represents his kingship on earth. Um, and it's something very interesting, and something you've seen a lot of Eastern icons is the way that Christ is holding his right hand and the way he's blessing. And it's the way that if you're a Byzantine Catholic or any of the Eastern Rite Catholics, you always bless yourself, which is that you hold you hold your hand like this, where the three fingers up here represent the
Finger
Trinity.
position is very important during the liturgy.
Very important. Yes. And then the two fingers down low represent the human and divine natures of Christ. And also, Christ is also signing CC, which is the Greek abbreviation for Jesus Christ. So he's telling you exactly who he is. So again, another rescued icon, one of the very many that I cherish and hold very dear. This one needs to be. I have to get around to framing this one like some of the the other ones are, so that they don't get any further damaged. But that's what we brought out of the basement today. And actually, this one's not going to go back in the basement. This one's got to be put in a place of honor somewhere upstairs here. so that's what we have today.
From the Soviet Union, any idea as to the exact age of it, or are you just going to have to? It's kind of old.
There are indicators based on the style and the paints used and the wood used and things like that. And so what I can determine is that this particular one is likely somewhere probably mid 1700s would be my best guess.
And it just sat in the churches there, and then when the communists tried to do their communisting, started destroying everything.
It's got so much damage to the back of it and stuff to be from just being ripped off a wall and ripped out of an iconostas. And I don't know. I don't know how they were saved from that point forward. I don't know if they were tossed in a trash heap, and thankfully some of the locals would find them and put them aside. I don't know, but it boggles the mind, the amount of beautiful Catholic art, or even Orthodox art that was lost to communism over the years. It's just it's just terrible. It's unforgivable, honestly. But I'm happy that I've been able to at least do my little tiny part to save some of it, and to pass it on to future generations. So that's what we have today.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere, and maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow. The Hill of Crosses. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
It was just constantly being taken down by the communists, and they just kept putting it back up, and there's thousands and thousands of crosses being put up. So that might be something we get into and talk about tomorrow. But
absolutely, that's a good one.
We're out of time today. So I'll go ahead and remind everyone to head on over to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. Download Holy Habits. It's free. It's one of the best Catholic app trackers out there on Earth and also Mars. Just ask Elon. But until then, we will see you all tomorrow. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. And God bless.
Yep, God bless everybody. See you tomorrow.